25 items on this, I assume it's going to be 25.
So that's not in my hands at all. That's in the budget delegate's hands.
Okay, and then many of,
Most likely fewer. Normally they shoot for around 12 to 15.
okay, and then many of these, which I guess did not get funded, certainly the constituents who they affect most would probably be advocating for them again this year around, because they don't look
So
like it.
yeah, these projects weren't chosen by community members. Because we did a shortened process, because we only took office in January, we came halfway in the PB process. And so what we did is we went around to all the available agencies that do capital projects and asked them, is there any projects that you have waiting on the shelf, waiting for funding? And that's where we got these items.
So these weren't presented by...
These weren't presented by the community.
Right.
We wanted to sort of jumpstart the PB process by doing the voting as soon as possible, because it's just how much the council member believes in this process. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to go Judy first because...
As someone who's gone through the city council capital funding twice, and third time for Black Bus, this is not a fast project. Just because this money gets there, it still has to go through every single city agency. It has to go through the borough president, it has to go through the city council, it has to go through whatever departments, DDC, Parks Department. So no one is to think that just as this money is allocated that someone's going to hand us $100,000 or something. It's a long, slow slog of a project process. So don't anyone think that if we say, yes, we want a project and we get it, it's going to appear in 60 days. It can still be 3 or 4 years away, because I know how the city operates. And it took me 4 years to open a kiosk. So I don't want anyone to think that this is just going to be lickety-split, we voted for it, and we're going to have a new library special thing tomorrow, because it ain't going to happen, baby. We have to keep the bureaucrats employed.
Yeah, so you're definitely right.
I've been through it.
Thank you for
Torture
putting a little bit of real.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this aspect is to guarantee the funding of these projects, but there is, as Judy mentioned, an entire cycle after that that all the agencies do have to do. That being said, the projects from last year, the bus clocks will be installed later this year. That's when we're expecting. We're expecting them to be installed later this year, as well as the fridges and stoves. We're expecting those to be installed in NYCHA developments that want them to be installed later this year as well. Actually, they're starting now, or it seems like that's the case. Yeah. And so these projects happened a little bit quicker because they were pre-approved, and all the projects will have to go through an approval phase of the agencies, and that's why we like to start the process all the way now in October rather than waiting a few months before April. And that's why it's sort of a 9-month-long process of getting the approvals, and then after we get the approvals, it's working, our office will be working with the city agencies to push these projects to happen as soon as possible. Sure.
Okay.
Just to go over something that I had discussed with you at the brewer meeting, and that's, and I'm sorry, you might have done this, and my tardiness in getting here, I'm just unknowing, so you could straighten it out for me if you can. But I think it's important to help people understand that these are for capital projects and not operating budgets.
Yeah.
And to try to make that distinction so that people understand when they're applying, you know, the kinds of funding, you know, the kinds of projects that the capital project funds. Operating budgets, maybe if you could help them with that.
Yeah, and I was able to explain capital projects correctly, but I didn't draw the line distinctly between, so there's several different types of discretionary funding, and capital projects is only a small amount, not a small amount, is a sizable part of the discretionary funding that we get. Part of discretionary funding is, there's a lot of different aspects. You're definitely right, Joyce, that this is, the best way we sort of explain it is people ask us, can we fund a tennis league And the answer is we can't fund a tennis league, but we can build a tennis court. And sort of that, we can't do this, but we can build, we can make, we can buy this. Yeah.
So it's not the ongoing, like staffing?
Yes.
You know,
Yeah, it's not for operational cost at all, it's for building and buying, brick and mortar.
Well, on that vein, if we want something that costs more than we're able to allocate, can we build it up year after year into a fund?
Yes.
We can do that.
Yeah. And so, I'm not sure.
Because
Yeah.
one of the things I don't know if anyone has suggested, one of the things I'd like to see is for this second floor of 504 to use this community space.
Yeah.
And I know we're not going to get enough money to do that in one shot. So maybe
Yeah.
if we can keep adding to it each year until there's enough money.
Yeah, and so capital funds in the past in our district, especially from Jessica Lappin and Gifford Miller, and I believe the state, while they still had discretionary funding, would put things in sort of like a piggy bank in a hole until they're able to accumulate enough funds to work to, that would be enough to fund an individual project. And I'm not sure if PB and if other council members have done this process where they use PB to put a savings, to build a savings for a future project, but it's definitely something that our office is open to, and that we're actually looking for ways to push PB forward to sort of broaden its scope a little bit. And so that's definitely something that we'd be willing to do. Do anyone have
Yes,
any
I have a
other
question.
questions?
What if one of the many ideas and projects that the Roosevelt and Park Network has is not a capital project, because what we're asking to RIO, it's already here, but they need the staff and the money to operate it, and they don't want to. That's one question. And the other one is, what will be the difference with Roosevelt Island, because it's state operated and it's not city operated, to get the things done?
Yeah.
Because we have to wait for our money, and then they have to pass to RIO. What will be the difference? And those are my two questions.
Yeah, so this is definitely a conversation.
Could you repeat the question?
So her question, it was actually two parts questions. The first one was about operating costs.
Yeah,
and
because
through
we
the,
already have the things here, but RIO doesn't want to do it.
So through the PB process, we wouldn't be able to fund that. And so it's only for building and buying things. And so that would be out of the scope of capital projects. We can definitely have conversations about sort of other streams of funding. Maybe there's something in the middle that we can find there. But for the second question, which is a really important question for our office and internally what we've been discussing, is the nature of Roosevelt Island and RIO. And it's our belief that there have been capital projects before that, as Judy has mentioned, that it is a process where we will have to work with RIO to accomplish these projects. And we have had a few conversations with RIO, and they are actually, from what I tell, optimistic about working with us through these sort of projects that involve them. So when she doesn't ask a question, then we'll do
It's a two-part question. Number one, do we have to be a nonprofit organization to request funds? And that's number one. And number two, is this the only pool of money that the city council has to give out, or is there also an operating budget?
Yes.
Because I know that every year that the senior association puts in.
Yeah, so I can definitely answer those questions. And Councilor can answer those questions if he wants as well. And the first is that through discretionary funding, there is a variety of different types of discretionary funding, from citywide initiatives to operating things for nonprofits, and then for this process, this is all individuals, and it's individuals that come up with the ideas and submit the ideas, And for the other forms of discretionary funding, you can definitely contact Sushant about that. If you're a nonprofit or there's an initiative that doesn't fit in the scope that you would like to have a discussion with us about, you can definitely reach out to Sushant, and Sushant will be available to sort of talk to you about what those other revenue streams are. And I'd love to